Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and I hope you're all doing really well today. Before I get started with the project that I want to work on today, I do want to thank everybody for sticking with me when I was doing my clay tutorials. As much as I am very much in the learning stages of that, I did get some awesome comments from some people on some tips and tricks that they have and people to go and look at. I've been spending some more time watching some videos, and as I was with the resin, I'm super impressed by what some people are doing and the color combinations people are doing, and it's great. I need to play some more. Once I kind of get a better feeling for it, then I will do some more videos on it. However, I really want to do some practicing on my own before I come back to doing that. On to today's video and what we're going to be doing. I was watching Claire's Crafty Corner, and she did a video that she had gotten the idea from watching someone else's video, and the other person apparently isn't doing resin anymore. It hasn't been for a while, but Claire had seen this and did a video of her own, and I'm borrowing that video because I thought it was a really cool idea, and I don't know if everyone watches Claire or not. So I thought, well, I'll do it on my channel, and then we'll see where it ends up. This is maybe something you've done before. It isn't something I've done before, and I'm a little excited about it because of the possibilities it potentially opens up for me and for you. So we have a mold here in front of us. I have this sticker book that I recently got from Michael's. It's a Recollections sticker book. Okay. In Claire's video, she wasn't using stickers, but I decided I wanted to use stickers for this video. I believe in her video, she was using heat transfer vinyl to do her piece, but again, I wanted to do stickers, and it was kind of interesting because with heat transfer vinyl, there's no tackiness on the back of them. For my stickers, obviously there is, and I thought I was going to have to do a two-step process, but I don't think I do. And I'll show you what I mean. So this is the page we're opening up to. This is going to be the sticker that I use in this mold, and I'm going to be fitting it in here. I thought that would look really pretty. I am doing everything with UV resin. I will in the future, for myself anyways, be using 2-part epoxy. I think it might be better than using UV resin. To make this video somewhat shorter than what my last two videos have been, I want to use UV resin, but I think 2-part epoxy is going to be the better product to use for this versus UV. For me, sometimes I find the UV doesn't actually come out exactly the way I want it to, and I've mentioned before in my videos, I tend to, when I can, as much as I use my UV light to cure these, I also stick them in the sun when I can, because I often think that sticking UV in the sun is the best place for it, because I think it hardens it better. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that or not, but that's how I feel about it. So if I can, I put it out in the sun, and I will leave it for 5-10 minutes and just let it set up. Anyway, I'm going to show you a couple of pieces because I've played a little bit. So this is a sticker that I did to start with, okay? And on this particular sticker, I actually put UV resin on both sides of it. Then I got to thinking I don't necessarily need to put UV resin on both sides of it to put it into the mold. I thought, well, let's cover up the sticker part. However, if you're going to be putting it in resin anyway, it doesn't really seem to, I don't think it matters. Anyway, so we've taken a sticker, we've got UV resin on the front and back of this one, and ultimately what you're going to end up with is something like this. All right, so here is a finished piece. The nice thing, and what we're able to do with this, instead of just, creating your resin piece and then putting your sticker on, then covering it with UV resin or epoxy resin, whatever you're covering it up with, that's totally your choice. This is actually embedded in. Now, my mold, the other one I was using, isn't the greatest. It has some markings in it. I ended up putting a coat of UV resin on top of it just because there were marks on this. Anyway, so this is the final piece. I only put a small little rose in here. This is really cool. They've got some really cool stickers. I'll show you some of the other ones in here. And I want to use some of the bigger stickers, but unfortunately this piece limits me. And I want to, if I'm going to have to cut something down, I want to get as precise as possible. But that's sort of the finished product. I used Light Wish. I put a red on there and a black on the back just to finish it off. And I might do something around the side, but this could have been decorated up a lot more than what it is. I just wanted to show you sort of what the end product's going to look like. So what are we going to do? Well, one thing I've got is I have some tack paper that I bought at the dollar store. I can't remember whether it was Dollarama or Dollar Tree. It doesn't really matter, but I took a piece of this and then I set it down. Now I'm going to have to, I'll just set it here. And I'm going to point out to you, one thing you want to make sure of is that, well, it may not matter too much, but I've got an air bubble in this, which doesn't float my boat. So I want to get rid of that. And then just, yeah, it's being difficult. Anyway, not that it really matters, but I like things as flat as I can get them. The other thing I want to do with this is, because I've got my fingerprints like all over it, again, it may not matter because the way the sticker is going to go down on here. But I am going to clean that up. Just give me a minute. Okay. So I'm just going to clean this up before we put our sticker down. All right, I got out another piece of my paper here because I didn't like the size that I had for the flower that I want to put inside my mold. So I've got a square piece here. I think I might have to bring you down like this so you can see it better. So there we are. Oh, excuse me for that. And the other thing I want to do is just give me another moment. You know what it's like if you do videos, you know, you hope you've got everything organized and then you don't, and then. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take one of these flowers here because it'll fit nicely into the silicone mold, not this. And I'm just going to really quickly wipe down this just because it just makes me feel better. Okay. The other thing I did when I was working with that is I don't want to get my fingerprints all over the piece that I'm taking out of here. So I'm going to be very careful pulling it up, and I'm going to use my tweezers to put it down here. And because this has got a shiny side to it, getting it up after the silicone has been put on top of it is going to be easier. So we're just going to put this like this. And I scratched it. So you're going to have to be really careful. You know what? I've indented it. So hopefully that won't show up too much when we do it. And then I'm just going to tap it down. So don't tell anybody I did that, okay? I try and find ways of doing things in such a way that my fingerprints are not getting all over them. Now, I do have my pink gloves here, so I'm actually going to put those on because I'm working with UV resin. But also, and more importantly for me right now, is so I don't get fingerprints on things. I've got to let go of my need to be perfect. It's a curse more than anything else. I'll be totally honest with you. It drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. So let me put that up. I'm going to very carefully now just wipe this down. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some UV resin. Now what I found when I did this piece, okay, I went outside of it. When I did this piece with the rose, I stayed as close as I could to just putting it on the rose. And that's what I want to do with this. I'm going to use the Magic Resin, UV resin. And then was that the other thing I did? Okay, one more thing I think I did too was I used this roller, which is meant for using on clay, but you know, whatever, just to push that down. It doesn't have to be really tight down. It just, I figure the flatter the better. And then all I'm going to do is get this with some UV resin on it, and hopefully next to no air bubbles. Now I know when Claire was doing it, she did use UV, which makes total sense to me, right? Because you're not going to want to put 2-part epoxy on a sticker and then have to let it dry for, you know, hours as such. So this works. So I think that might be enough. I will very carefully spread that out. Getting one of my tools here, and very carefully, and I really just want it to the edges. And there is some white, and if we go over a little bit, that's not a big deal. The reason I want to keep it fairly close to the edges is because of the size of my mold and the size of this flower. If I go over too much, then what's going to end up happening is this isn't going to fit, and I'm going to have to cut it down. And the scissors I have, although they will do that, aren't the best. Now I think what's going to help this as well is if this has got a plastic coating on it. If we were dealing with just something like a paper, I would be concerned about it soaking into the paper and curling it. And I will not here, but see about if we do something and then putting a coating of something on it and then putting the UV resin on, excuse me, on top of it. So we'll just let this spread out a little bit. It's almost like you're doming it just to get it covered without going over it too much, right? You get a little bit of over, it's not going to matter, but just, I would be just aware. Oh, man. It's that time of year. I swear I've never been allergic to anything, but I just feel everything's really starting to come out, and I just feel like I'm allergic to something in the air, and I don't know what it is. I think I've mentioned before, when I go into grocery stores, I start sneezing and just feel very clogged. And I'm feeling that today. All right, so there we have it. I've got it just to the tips of that. I'm going to take my lighter and just pop any air bubbles. I'm very careful, right? And then taking notice if I've missed any spots on this, so it can sort of level itself out again. And I also take note if I've got some areas that may not have UV resin on them. So I think I'm going to put just a little bit more on them. It's almost like you're doming a resin piece that you've made. It's, if you want to look at it that way. There we go. And then I found too, what I did with the last one is I covered it up just to keep crap off of it for a second or two, and then set it under the UV light again, making sure the UV light was high enough up that it wasn't going to mess with it. So while that's just sort of sitting there, and I'm trying to get my nose to stop bothering me, I'll just show you some more of these. So hopefully you can see, like, there's some really pretty pages in this. And they had about 5 or 6 of these, and I got them at Michael's. And I figure they've got enough different things in it that you can mix and match to make something really pretty. And some of these, I mean, if you use something like this, which is completely doable, right? You just have to have a longer piece of the wood tape. Is that what this stuff's called? Drawer liner. Call it what you want. This page, I love this page because I love the colors. I wanted to do one of these, but the mold I have isn't big enough for this. And I really like these too. I'd have to cut them out though. Okay, let me just see what else we've got in there. They've got these, which I thought were really cool too. Some of these. So you could layer if you wanted to. I really like these, but again, my mold wasn't big enough for one of these. Lots to play with for sure. For sure, for sure. So we'll just throw that off. We're not going to throw it off to the side. We're going to place it off to the side. All right. Now I'm noticing, and I don't know why it's bubbling like that. So, yeah, I'm not sure how the air is getting, unless it's because the UV resin on top of it. And I see a little something there, so that's gone. All right, let's get this puppy going. And we'll do it for 60 seconds, and then we'll take it off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a pause. I'm going to go over to my Let's Resin and put it under there so it can cure up properly. So have you got any summer plans? Are we doing anything exciting? Or are you just sort of day by day and seeing what the weather brings and just letting the spirit move you? So I see this being a really cool opportunity. If you've got a Cricut and you're cutting things out, I will play with paper and whatnot to, again, see, because if you're an artist in a sense of you can draw things, I'm wondering about watercolors. If you did something in a watercolor and then ended up, you know, cutting it out and putting it in something, or again, vinyl, you could do something, you know, with vinyl. I think there are a lot of possibilities with it. I think you'll have to play like usual in order to see what's going to work best. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my fingers this time to lift this up. I'm not going to tweezer it. Yeah, see, it's pulled it up a little bit, but that's okay. The other thing I do kind of think about a little bit is it curling, because it, I mean, UV resin tends to, right? Because it's being warmed up. Now, what I can do is, so the other side, obviously, sticky. That's something else I thought about, and I didn't do it here, is the potential of trying to get some of that stickiness off of the back of your piece. But I don't know that that matters. And again, I don't see it mattering as far as putting UV on the back. Now, the only benefit, the potential benefit is, depending on how deep your mold is, and these, I mean, this mold isn't very deep, and I really don't want this, you know, sitting up out of the mold, if you will. Like when I put that down the resin, I want that down in the resin, but not so high as I can't get a top coat on it. So what I think I might do, because this is bigger and because it is bowing like it is, like it's got a bow in it, I am going to do the back side of this so that it's pushed down. Like I don't like the idea of it being, and that might mess it up, but let's see. I think we'll put it on now. My only problem's going to be is that it is sort of warped now. So you'd almost want to put it on something so you could flatten it out, right? Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it under the UV lamp, the Resin one, because it'll do it from both sides. And I'm wondering if it'll help flatten that out a bit. And if it doesn't, then I may look at putting another top coat of resin on it just to try and flatten this out a little bit. Because as I say, if we put this in here, I'm not sure which way I had it. Doesn't, I mean, you can kind of see it's not laying flat on that. And I mean, yes, there's going to be a coat of resin in the bottom of that, which is fine. But again, I want it flatter than that. So let me go throw it in underneath the other lamp and see what happens. And if we have to do more, we will. And what I might do is pull down a piece of my tape that I have over here and stick it down on that to keep it flat. So just give me a second and let's see what we can do. I've placed some of the tape down and I've made sure that where I put this now, it's still pulling it up a little bit, and I don't know if there's any way I can avoid that completely. I'll try lifting it. And I used my little roller as well to, yeah. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to wing this, people. So it's unfortunate that it has curled a little bit, but we'll see if it doesn't help pull it down a little bit. It's a fair sized piece, and I can see how then doing, you know, vinyl might be a better option than using the stickers. But I'm sure, you know what, if you can come up with the idea, you can come up with a solution. I get frustrated with myself when I can't think of the words I want to use. So again, we're just going to go up around the edges. And again, this is a first time for me doing this idea, so I will figure out some, I'm sure I'll figure out some tips and tricks on how to make this work better. I'm really hoping that by putting resin on this side that it'll help to bend it back down. That's the plan anyway, right? At least I have a plan. As such. May not be the best plan, but it's a plan. So we'll just hope that this sort of bends it back down a little bit and doesn't warp it anymore. I'd like to think that it wouldn't warp it anymore because we're putting it on the opposite side. And I don't know whether Claire mentioned about any warping in her piece. And because this is going to be on the opposite, like on the back, I'm not as, you know, really concerned about the amount of resin I get on it or that type of thing. And my idea is, depending on what I'm doing, would be always to back it with a color that's going to cover this up anyway. Pull that down a little bit. And then we'll use the lighter, and then we're just going to throw it under the I do like getting rid of my air bubbles to the best of my ability. And hopefully this will work. And then while this is underneath the other lamp, well, I can't do that. That's not going to work. I have to put I can put my UV resin in while this is sort of setting up, and then we'll place this in. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this pushes it down. This is almost when I wish I had some music playing for you. But that's okay. I know some of you don't like it. There, okay. So now, so it seems to have flattened it a little bit, so that's a good thing. Now I'm just trying to see if I can, how easily I can or cannot get this off. Because we don't want to mess with it, right? And hopefully too, the tape hasn't marred or messed up the piece at the front, right? Because it's supposed to be good tape that way. This is the Let's Resin tape. It's technically not supposed to leave any marks on it. Now, me jabbing my fingers into it isn't necessarily a good thing. All right, put that down, stick that down to the ground. So there we have it. Okay, so it's relatively flat now. It's better than it was. I'm just going to carefully, hopefully, leave you behind and not bring my camera with me. I'm just going to put that down, and I'm going to let that set up for 3 minutes. And then what we'll do while that's going on, let's get that right out of the way. Trying to work with tape when you've got your gloves on. Well, you know how that goes, right? About that well. So I'm trying to think of maybe what I'll do. I've got a red rose. I could put just black on the back of it, but I want it to pop, so I might use, trying to think. I mean, I got a whole selection of different colors over there that I can potentially use. Right, don't you just love that? I used to think, you know, if they only had 2 colors in the world, I'd be so much better off. Now, the other thing I had thought of, now, in looking at my Let's Resin Chrome colors that I've got, I'm just wondering if I were to take, so once this sort of gets set down, if we were to take and then brush on some of the chrome color on the back of this, how that would work out for us. And I'm not sure, and I'm sort of looking at the holographic silver as the potential color. Gold would be really nice too, eh? So I might have to see, instead of trying to do an actual light wish color. No, I know I was able to get it to sort of go over. I'm trying to keep, I'm very bad for getting my UV resin up against the sides. And when I say that it's actually crawling up the sides, which I don't like, because it can distort your piece if you're using like different colors. So when I push it over to the side, I like to be really careful with that. So it's just sort of, it is in contact with the side, but not running up the sides, if that makes sense to you. So I try and be really careful with that. And then if it'll flow in on, I know I've got just gone over. Yep, finally. Again, it's one of those, gotta have patience, right? I've been working on some ceramic resin phone stands. I'm having a blast working on them and decorating them up with stencils and whatnot and coloring them. I'm just having such a blast with them. And I've been posting some pictures on my Facebook page. And I did on the, well, I should say on my personal, I did on the weekend. I don't know if they made it over to my Being Intentionally Creative page, but I'm having so much fun decorating them. It's been a lot of fun. And I got some very cool stamps that I think the really cool ones. I got them off of Temu, and I grant you, I know that they're not always the best on Temu for the stamps. I tend to think sometimes they might be seconds, and they don't always stamp flat, but I've been very fortunate with the ones I've been using. I'll have to show you because it's so cool and it's so relaxing what I'm doing. All right, so we'll leave that like that just to sit for a minute. I will use my lighter on it to get rid of any air bubbles that I can see anyway. It's hard because this mat isn't like clean underneath, so you know, if I stop it, if I see something, did I lock that? No, I didn't. Okay, if you don't want to work, you don't want to work. I get it. It's not a clean mat, so it's hard for me to see. All right, let's just cover that up. Are we done over there? Yes, we are. So we'll go bring that over and hope it's still flat. Yeah. Now it's interesting too, one of the things I'm finding, and that might be because I put it down on the tape and didn't get this cured enough, but it almost looks like it's peeling off some of the resin that I put on the rose part. The backing, as I say, I don't really care about that because it's going to be covered, but I do care about the front. So I'm going to tilt it. I'm not sure, again, if you can see it, but right in here, it's almost looking like it either hasn't set or it's the tape messed it up a little bit, like pulled it away from it. So that's something you're going to want to be careful of, because I see that showing through. Now, I don't want to put another coat on this, but I can see that maybe being an issue. So that's something I'm going to have to play with as well. So I'm just going to turn this. I've got a fleck of dust in that. All right. Do I have another fleck, or is that light? There, that was a bubble. Okay, so let's see if we can very carefully place this in. And I think, okay, I want it that way up. So I'm going to have to turn this like this because I know that is the way I want it to be up. And I can grip it over here on the side. I got this little piece. I don't know if I can do this. So I want to very carefully place this in. I know it'll fit. I did, yeah, as I start to turn it, there we go. I'm going to let it just sort of sink itself in on its own. I figure if it can pull it down on its own, maybe I'll be very fortunate. I didn't get air, well, I got one tiny little air bubble in the piece I made. I just want to get this over as I whisper to myself. I'm going to have to lift this and move it around. I figured this would fit, and I don't know. I really don't want to be moving this around this much. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like it's pushing itself up over here, and I don't know why. All right, hold on a second. This is seriously not working the way I wanted it to. It's really, and it's creating all kinds of air bubbles under there. Which I don't want. All right. Yeah, having fun now, aren't we? So this is where you might want to cut things down, or just really make sure that things are going to fit in there the way you want them to, because I thought I would be okay with this. And it's not exactly fitting in the way I had hoped. I feel I'm going to have air bubbles under there because we saw them, or I did anyway. Again, this is one of these things I'm going to have to play with. All right, at least it's down into it. So that's a good thing, right? And when I did this the last time with the other one, I made sure that I did it over here, and then I threw it in the Let's Resin so that it could do top and bottom. I'm not sure if pushing that down is going to be a good thing or not. So let's just leave it like that. Let's not play with it anymore. Let's set this to cure. And that's almost it. It's making me think, when we do our two-part epoxy and we're putting something in it, we want to make sure it's coated. So that might be something to do as well. Perhaps coat it so that when it goes down into it, it's not creating an airspace. But it's the concept that I'm really showing you here today. So if you have to play and adjust things, so be it. But it gives you the concept, which is exactly what I appreciated with Claire's video, because I thought to myself, this has the potential of you getting different things into your molds without having to. So if we think about the coasters we've done, we've made the coaster, we put the decal or what have you on the piece, and then we've coated it with resin. So all I'm thinking about now is, depending on what you're using, like a tattoo, that's not going to work because we have to put the tattoo down. I see no way of being able to do a tattoo. However, things like these stickers and vinyl and perhaps some other things, if we protect them properly and then coat them and then put them in, then you don't have to go through that extra step. Where you will have to get is, how do we avoid the air bubbles? I think that's going to be the next. Now, granted, as I'm looking at the rose I did, the smaller one, is if you did these and then just made them into earrings. Like, didn't even bother putting them in a mold, just, yeah, covered them and then made them into earrings because they've been coated on both sides. All right, so again, we're going to take this And I'm going to throw this over my other, and I get my stand, because then I won't mess with the integrity of it. I just get it right onto that. All right. And then I'll put this under here for 2 minutes. And while that's cooking up, I am just trying to think how well it would work. I almost feel like I'd have to put a layer of UV resin on top of what's there to coat that. I wonder. I'm thinking. Oh, they're handy and right here, so I'm gonna very carefully, without not making a mess out of absolutely everything, pull out my colors. I'm almost thinking that I've got blue, light blue. I'm wondering about green, if we did green around it. So the green's really pretty. So let's see what we can do with the green. And if it's a flop, it's a flop. I mean, that's, again, we're playing with things. So we'll just get this. And curious too, I mean, again, I love my questions. Has anyone done anything like this? I mean, I hadn't thought about doing it. I love the idea of putting stickers and whatnot into my pieces. I definitely like this idea better because it, in some ways, will save you some work. Granted, you may have to put a top coat on something anyway, but I think it's an interesting idea, and I think it lends itself to new ideas for you as far as a creative aspect goes. Yeah, there's so many things, ideas I come up with, and I bet you there's 25% of them I haven't even tried yet, because I see somebody do something and all of a sudden, oh, it's like, what can I do? How can I make this different? So let's bring this over here. And we'll just leave that on there. So everything. So here's, I mean, again, these colors are absolutely gorgeous. So let's see what we can do. And I'm not sure, how well this is going to work. So again, I'll do it up around the sides. And maybe, even if this doesn't coat the way I want it to, if we do a clear coat on it, or I can take my green and put it on. Now this, I can see this is warped inside the mold, like my piece is set down now. In Claire's, she was using the hearts, the heart mold. I don't have that. And again, I like to experiment and see what I can do. And I guess the other sort of drawback of doing it this way is, I mean, how do you get the excess out of this? I guess I could try and shift it around. I'm certainly not going to blow it with the blow tool I have, because that'd just, like, no thank you. And I'm trying to be very careful so as not to dislodge the sides of that. And always cover up your containers. Close them back up so you don't end up throwing that all over the place. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. So you know what? I'm not going to. I'm a little concerned that if I flip it over, I'm going to loosen it up. So we won't do that, and we will find my solid color green, and we'll put that on and see how this. Now I think I've mentioned before, I like to put these on their side before I start, because they do trap air in them. which isn't helpful. So I like to do that before and then I usually too have a piece of paper towel. Now this is kind of neon looking, so I'm not sure how this, I don't know if I have another darker green over there just give me a second. I'm seriously running out of space here, people. That's turquoise green. I seriously don't want that. Lime green I don't want. I think I have a lake green. I have an olive. You know what? We'll just go with this. That's a light green. Hopefully the chrome will help with my coloring. And I really just want to put one layer of this on. I don't want to have to put a second layer on. So I'll spread this out as best I can. It's not flat in this by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's another good reason to use two-part epoxy versus UV. Okay, let's get this sort of spread out. Get the air out. Let that sit on its side. And again, we'll very carefully get this around the sides. So we've got an air bubble there. Having fun yet? I am having, you know what, I say that sarcastically, but at the same time, again, it's a new way of doing things. And I think that's what I appreciate about doing videos like this is, you know, in case you don't watch Claire or you haven't seen this before and you want to know how it's done, then, you know, there's benefits to this. So I'm just going to bring this over to the edge of the chrome that's just sitting there. So let's see if we can't get out. And of course we could back this with something. We could I could decoupage it for all that is. So we'll see how this turns out. We'll go over this just one more time with my lighter, just because we can. Now the other thing I had found when I did, there had been markings on the front of the other one I had did. That's why I did have to put a coat of UV resin on it, even once it came out of the mold. But again, your piece is embedded into the resin. So I think your biggest challenge is going to be the potential air bubbles. And I'm almost wondering if with these stickers, if the potential is there just to not even put any UV resin on and just very carefully slide them in to the resin, but that's something I would have to play with. So another good thing about watching someone else do a video is, okay, this is what they're doing. I can, you know, as an individual watching, I can see that being an issue. So what can I do differently to make it work? So I'm going to lift this up a little bit higher this time. I can see some ripples in it, and again, trying to avoid those. And then we'll slowly bring it down. So yeah, anytime you're watching someone do a video, I mean, I'm hoping you're open to your own ideas coming on how you can make it better, what you can do differently. You see what works for them or what doesn't work, as you're seeing with me. How can you improve on this? You know, what tips have you got? What have you found in the past? Because I know people, I think to myself, I'm always looking for new ideas. Just to sort of push the envelope. And I think that's how we evolve. That's how new ideas come about. All right, so we've done that. Let's see. It's not set, but it's set. Okay, so let's flip this over. Okay. I'm going to take it out very carefully. I recommend not touching the front of this if at all possible. Yeah, because it's not completely dry. I don't know if you can see, but there's still resin in that. It hasn't completely cured it. And I've got one massive air bubble right there. So when you're doing this, and that's why I'm saying do not touch the front of this. So I've got some definite issues on this. So I've got this, yeah, because the resin hasn't set up in there completely, and I'm not sure why that has happened, but I've also got like air bubbles here, like air bubbles. So I want to just very carefully, and I'm trying to think what I want to use. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. Just want to, yeah, that's not set at all. Yeah, that's not set at all. So we're going to do it this way before I move it. So this is why you may have to put a top coat on this anyway. And maybe too, this isn't a deep enough mold for what I want to do. Again, Claire used those heart molds, so they're fairly deep. And that may be part of the trick too, is to use something that's deeper than what I've got here. Okay, so I'm just going to throw that out into the wind for you to maybe grab onto. I think it looks pretty. I like the fact that I put the green background on it. That's pretty. And then what we'll do is we'll do it again for another minute. We'll have a look at it together, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back under the Let's Resin lamp. I'm going to let it cure for about 3 to 5 minutes. I'm then going to put a top coat on it, and then I'll bring you back so you can see the final product. So it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I have work to do as far as figuring this out. I want to get this so you can see it. So when the light catches it just right, you can see the imperfections in that. I'm trying to, yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to throw this under the lamp for 3 to 5 minutes. I think what I'll do is 5 minutes. I'm going to put a top coat on it, and then I'll bring you back so you can see the final piece. And I might even be persuaded, if I were, going to do this for good on something, I might even be persuaded to do something on the back of it as well. Just because. But anyway, let me go finish this up, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at it and see where we go from there. Alrighty, we are coming to the close of this video, and hopefully it's a little shorter than the other two have been, but regardless, if it isn't, it isn't. Alright, now, I put my top coat on here, and I had a circle that was still showing, so I threw this little bobble on here because I thought, well, why not? Kind of looks... There's definitely room for me to learn, and I'm getting the feeling that a thicker mold, or deeper, I shouldn't say thicker, deeper mold would be better for this process going forward. I think it's a cool idea. I like the concept, and I want to play with some more, not just stickers, but perhaps, you know, if I've done something, created a design with stamps or something like that, and I want to put them in something, I'm going to have to find something deeper to work with. I mean, this is a 1/4 of an inch, and really what can you do with a 1/4 of an inch? Whereas those heart ones are probably, you know, from the deepest part of them are probably closer to an inch. So I think that would make a difference in the grand scheme of things. But like I say, I think there's room for it. And we can still see, I don't know if you can, yeah, see if I tilt it here, you can see that mark that's on the stamp or on the sticker. I have to get better at that. And also I got thinking about using the UV light and the fact that we've got the tray and it's clear, fair enough, but we've got to get through the tray, and then we've also got to get through the silicone to cure the bottom side of that, which, you know, doesn't always work out well. So I'm going to have to figure something out on that aspect. And the only thing I thought about was, well, what if I took out the tray and just laid this, you know, the mold right down on the lights? And the other yeah, and laid it right down on the lights. I was thinking I could flip it over, but if I put it right down on the lights, because we have top and bottom, would that make a difference so it doesn't have to travel through so much? It's a cool idea. Go check out Claire's video if you want to. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of cool things, and I definitely like the idea of having the piece embedded in the resin, you know, straight off. It's just a matter of I've got to get better at this. So that's our video. That's where we're at with all of this. And I would be curious to know if you've done this, if you're thinking about doing this, if this has given you any ideas on potentially how you can, you know, sort of make this even more cool than what I've done here. And I'm going to play with it some more because I do like the idea of it. I think it's neat. The side's a little messed up. And when I say that, just because of how it cured itself in there. But I mean, again, I'm very particular when I do things. I don't think a lot of people are going to sit there and go, oh, that's not the right depth in there. That's just what I do. It's not a good thing. Seriously, it's not a good thing. Anyway, I would recommend, if you want to try this out, is to have a deeper mold to work with than what I have. I don't think these are deep enough. Gives you the idea, gives you the concept. Go check out Claire's video if you're interested in seeing how she's done it. I'm going to play some more, and we will see you in my next video. Take care, be creative. Bye for now.